This is Adrian Murrell. You're watching Class Act Sports.
This is Victor Green. You're watching Class Act Sports. I'm joined today by my former teammate, best friend, Adrian Murrell. Nice to have you, brother.
Thank you for having me, Vic. Appreciate it.
Adrian was a fifth-round draft pick in '93. He also played for Arizona Cardinals, Dallas Cowboys, and the Washington Redskins. Adrian, you're from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Right.
Your dad was in the military. How was that for you in a young age, traveling the world like that?
Well, I think by my father being in the military, it gave me the ability to go to a new place, not knowing who's there, and being able to adapt. You know, as a kid growing up, you know, that's kind of the scary part, and then you don't know how you will fit in. Yeah. And I think that gave me some independence in my life. I think it gave me opportunity to see what I was made of. So I think it was a great childhood experience being a military brat.
What countries did you go and live in?
Well, when I was 6, we moved to Vicenza, Italy. I was there for 4 years. I left when I was 10. Then we came back to Fort Bragg or Fayetteville, North Carolina. And then we left when I was 14 to go to Hawaii. So, you know, when I went to Hawaii, that's where I did all my high school years.
Right. How was that, you know, going to Hawaii after living in other countries, adapting to the Polynesian culture? How was that for you? Was that a big transition for you?
It was, because sometimes it's challenging for, if you're not a local, as they will call it in Hawaii, it's tougher for you to transition in a system there. Fortunately enough for me, I was very confident in what I could do from an athletic perspective. Right. And that kind of gave me a segue, if I can call it that, for people to, you know, notice who I was. And, you know, it just started early on for me, and I was somewhat embraced by, you know, what they would consider local. And then I just enjoyed the lifestyle. It was all about ohana, which means family. Right. And it was a beautiful experience for our family.
Well, you had a great high school career. You took your services to play in the University of West Virginia, where your first year you sat. Yeah. Second year you had a great season. Leading up to the draft, you know, you coming off, I think, your junior season, 1,200 yards. Mm-hmm. Leading up to the draft, you know, how was that process, or what was that process like for you?
Well, for me, it was somewhat a bittersweet process. You know, I felt like, from what was told to me in terms of what my rankings were, that, you know, I'm going to be a first day or second round pick or first day pick, and, you know, I thought I showed fairly well in the combines. I thought I showed fairly well in the Senior Bowl, and all things pointed that it could be a possibility that I was drafted, in which they were, you know, the powers that be were the analysts were saying that I was. Right. And for it not to happen, but still getting an opportunity to go to the NFL was something of a lifelong dream. Right. And I just took that as, you know, I've got an opportunity here, and I want to see if I can make the best of that opportunity. But I prepared myself as best I could, and as you know, the draft is a tricky thing, and you think you may be in one round, and then you know, you don't get picked by a team that you thought that they were going to pick you, and then you slip for how many ever rounds you slip. But like they say, once you get there, all the draft picks, or when you was picked, it goes out the window. Now you got to perform. Right. And, you know, the father was you know, on my side to give me an opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. Well, we mentioned you was a fifth-round draft pick. Right. You talked about you was being a first round, a second rounder. Watching the draft and see the rounds go by, first round, second round, third round, how was that for you? Was that a stressful time when you seen that your status was obviously dropping at that point?
Well, absolutely, because then you start to second guess what people were saying about you, and you second guess what you felt like you did in your collegiate career, and you know, you just don't know if your services if you ever get that opportunity to even play in the NFL. I mean, let's think about the odds. It's a 1% chance that you make it. Right. So for for me to slip was very a discouraging feeling for me at the time. I'm 22 years old. I feel like I'm on top of the world. However, it just, unfortunately, it just happened that way. But, I had some good people in my corner. And when you get your opportunity, son, you show what you can do. And, that's what I did.
Right. Well, you mentioned, being drafted is a blessing. You, again, drafted by the New York Jets.
Right.
Your first 2 years, you kind of sat, if you will.
Right.
Third year in '95, you got an opportunity,
right,
which I call your breakout season.
Right.
How was that for you? Was that gratifying? You coming in and having 900 yards plus yards that year after being a fifth-round draft pick? It was kind of like telling the Jets, I can do this.
Right. Well, then, there was a stigma when I first got there that he's going to be a third down back. Back then, a third down back was, it was a specialty position as a running back.
Right.
And I didn't mind that, but I knew that, I'm 210, 212 pounds. And when you look at the, I guess from a stature standpoint, I could look and be an every down back. Right. And I always showed from my rookie year flashes. And then my second year, if you recall, I tore my MCL.
Right.
And that kind of put me on the sideline for half the season, the remaining half the season, where Coach Carroll was giving me opportunities. And then unfortunately for me, I got hurt. So I couldn't do anything until my third year. Right. And then when I got the opportunity, as you know, once you get your opportunity, you just never look back. Right. And that's kind of the way I approach the game. I approach it as learn as much as I can, and see where the cards fall.
Right.
And obviously through what I've done, it was something that it paid off.
Right. Well, you mentioned taking advantage of the opportunity. You went on to have 3 consecutive 1,000-yard game plus. But after that '97 season, you was traded away to the Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
What was that feeling like after thinking, okay, I had 3 great years here in New York, and then you get traded? I mean, what was the feelings going through your mind at that point?
Well, you got to look at it as a business. And did I see that coming? No, I didn't. But kind of how it was told to me is, we get an opportunity here to weaken the team. There had been relations with the back that came in, with the coaching staff, and matter of fact, he's on the ballot to be a Hall of Famer. So
Curtis Martin is the guy you're speaking of.
Absolutely,
right.
And I mean, I regard him as one of the best backs that ever played a game,
right.
And he had the opportunity to show what he can do. But there were conversations with myself and Parcells that maybe I will stay a year and then see what happens after that year. But we asked for the opportunity to shop, and then we was granted that opportunity, and we found a deal with the Arizona Cardinals. I felt very good about the situation there, being that there had been a lack of production in the run game, and then being a part of that factor that they haven't been to a playoff game in I don't know for how long, and then not even winning a playoff game, I think, was for 51 years.
Wow.
I felt like it was a great accomplishment, and it was nice for me to go there and show that I can still run the ball.
What was the biggest difference between New York and Arizona?
Well, I was raised as you were in New York. I was comfortable being a part of that team. I forged a lot of friendships that I have still today, like you and other guys that we've played with. And I felt like that team was on the cusp of doing something. And as we walked out that tunnel, the last game when we played the Detroit Lions, Coach Parcells said he's going to get some additional things to help me out.
Right.
So I felt very comfortable that I will be there longer than I was. As we know, it is a business. And I felt that New York was my home. Right. And then to kind of get that pulled from up under me really consummated that it is a business and you have to move on. Arizona was gracious enough to look at my talents and say, we would like to have your services here. And went there and we won a playoff game,
right. Right.
And I just felt like both of those teams are my home, but New York just has a special place in my heart.
Absolutely. Well, let's back up a little bit because, prior to that, you getting traded in '96, we went to Arizona and beat them.
Right.
Our only win of the season, went
Right.
1-15.
Right.
And you actually had 199 yards that game. Do you think that has a lot or anything to do with the Cardinals trading for your services?
Well, I think so. I think they can really actually see what you've done against their team. And I think that, they remember that. And then by them needing a runner that can go out and have that type of production against them,
right.
gives them confidence as what they looked at maybe from the '97 year that, hey, he still can play this game at a high level. He's a starter running back. And let's trade for him. Let's give the, whatever the terms were, let's go ahead and make those terms and let's just bring them in. So, I think that it was a good fit for everybody, and it worked out good.
Well, you went there. You had another 1,000-yard season. But in '99, your production dropped off to almost half.
Right.
What was the cause of that? Was it injury? Was it scheme? Was that actually you was coming into a free agent year?
Right.
Do you think it was something with the Cardinals taking Les Rush's attempts away from you?
Yeah, I mean, my production went down. For a runner to be what they call in the zone or be a part of the game, it's difficult for him to get 1 or 2 carries and then have 10 or 8 plays off from even touching the ball.
Right.
So I never got a rhythm in '99. I felt like that there was some younger talent that they had that they wanted to develop, and they spread the wealth a little bit, and then we didn't have any production. And they also got rid of some key talent for us.
Right.
Some guys up front. They got rid of one of their mainstays in Larry Centers. The defense didn't play as well. So there were some woes at the quarterback position. There was some drop off there. So there was a lot that played into it. And I just think that there wasn't really a lot of continuity as to as a team gelling. That you can't take away key parts from the year before where you had success, and then say that we're going to do it in a different way. And I think it really hurt what we were trying to accomplish out there. And it was a contract year for me, and it didn't work out.
Right. Well, as a defensive back, let's back up a little bit. We talked about you having 3 consecutive years of 1,000+ yard seasons. You obviously had, I think you had 14, 15 touchdowns throughout that period span.
Right.
What is like for a running back when scoring a touchdown? Is it a difference or a big difference? 1 yard score, 10 yards, 20 yards, or even a 90-yard touchdown? What are your thought process? Does it matter, or touchdowns is a touchdown?
It matters when you get down to the 1, and then they bring another back in, and they give him the run when you're the guy who done the work to get us down there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then when I look at my my total career touchdowns, and if we just look at those 3 years, I will get it down to a certain part, and then you bring your goal line package in, or we probably, if I had an opportunity to do that, we're talking about maybe 20, 25 more touchdowns from a career standpoint.
Right.
So it matters. How you go about getting it. I love to have a long run, but if you get a 1 yard run or 2 yard run, I'll take that as well.
So just as gratifying.
Absolutely.
Right? All right, well, moving ahead now, in 2000, you become that free agent.
Right.
After that, a disappointing season, I would say.
Absolutely.
And you decided to take your services to Washington.
Right.
Why, or what decision prompted you to go with Washington instead of a New England, a team that you knew a lot better?
Well, I would say that probably was one of that was a mistake on my part. I got wrapped up in who's on what team, but I did know the staff, and I know what that staff brings to the table. But what I saw in the Redskins was there was a lot of talent there, and they were stacking their team, and all the polls were saying, hey, this team is going to win it.
Right.
We've got that type of talent there, and and then for them to want me and be complimentary to a Stephen Davis and be a part of that was intriguing. So I ended up making a decision to go there over New England, where, it can be debated that, that probably was a decision that I should have taken a little harder look at.
Do you beat yourself over that today? Or
absolutely not.
No.
I mean, it's just like if you run the ball and you see a hole and you second guess it, or you see two avenues and you take one and that may not be the right avenue. You just, it was just one of those things.
Right. You retired after that 2000 season. What was that transition like for you?
Well, the transition was tough because I ended up going to the Carolina Panthers, and it became a numbers game for a veteran running back, and I was waved in shorts, and I was in shape. I showed well, and what was said is, we can basically have a couple of backs for the price of one, right. And that kind of left a taste in my mouth. Like, well, you know what? We may need to do something else. Life does go on, and so I ended up saying I'm going to retire. So did I feel like I could continue to play the game? Absolutely. And then not having that opportunity, it was time to step away from the game and do other things.
Right. Well, you stayed away from the game for a couple of years. You got an opportunity in 2003, Parcells,
right,
with the Dallas
right.
Cowboys. What that was like for you coming back to the game after a two-year hiatus.
Right.
How was that for you?
It was very gratifying because I knew going to the Cowboys what he was looking for. I knew that he wasn't going to give me the opportunity to be a starter, but he was wanting some production in his run game and probably pushed the back that was in front of me in Hambrick, which was a younger back. And I didn't ever feel like I wasn't a part of Parcells, one of his guys. I don't think that my production in New York, was something that he didn't really like. I think that he could have stayed with me if the other opportunity wasn't available. I think I'd have still been in New York. But for him to give me an opportunity and ask me to come play for him in Dallas, for whatever amount or time span that it was, it showed me that I can continue to play that game at a high level, and it's it's essentially a numbers game, and
right.
it gave me closure to my football career.
Well, since you retired, you got a brother, Marcus Murrell, now,
right,
playing in the NFL,
right,
with the New England Patriots at this time. What advice did you give him coming out of college?
Well, I told him to take this. This is your job, so you have to be very professional about your approach to the game. I stated to him to essentially be a person of trustworthy and really look at your team and where do you fit in amongst your teammates and in the systems that you are playing within, and find a way to be successful, find a way to make plays, because at the end of the day, that's what you have to do.
Right, right.
And he ended up playing 3 years with the Jets, and then this was his first year with the Patriots. And I think that he's a guy that once he gets an opportunity, he's going to do well.
Is there any family squabbles between you two? Who's a better player? I know he won some championships
right.
at Appalachian State.
Right.
Do you guys talk about that? Because I know you didn't win any championships in college. So, What are the conversations like between you two?
When the Patriots were in the playoffs and they were the number one seed, everyone looked at what the Patriots did to the Jets, and I guess in their second meeting of the year, just everyone believed that the Patriots were going to win. So I'm like, wow, Marcus got a couple of rings in college, and he looks like he may end up getting a ring in the pros.
Right.
So I'm like, one, happy for him,
right.
and two is man, just I don't have any of those things. Right. So it was no rivalry, just happy for him.
Right, absolutely.
And unfortunately, they didn't get it.
Right. You're married. You have 3 beautiful kids,
yes.
Tylen, Aaron, and Amari.
Yes.
How's that family for you? I mean, being away from the game now, you have obviously a more important thing to look after. How are your days as a dad now, being home and with your kids?
I think this is
and wife?
I think this is one of the best times of your life, you're raising your children, and I've 3 beautiful children. We're blessed with good health. They are very active. My son, he's coming up. He's a very good football player. He's a very good basketball player. And we're just enjoying the ride, this part in our life. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Marriage life is great, going on 18 years of marriage.
Wow, awesome.
And we're busy. I think we're doing a lot of taxi cab, going here to there, and let's go to this dance recital, or let's go to this basketball tournament, or this football game, and then Aaron's cheering for the middle school. So we're spread out all across the board. But I mean, this is the part of our life that we're in. And it's a great and enjoyable experience.
You mentioned Tyler, who's mentioned as a great athlete.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself in Tyler and having this opportunity to one day follow in your footsteps?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that as every young boy has aspirations of being some sort of professional athlete who's active in sports. And do I think Tyler, he's got some tools, or our boys have tools, even girls, they have tools in which we wasn't exposed to. We've kind of know what the process is. We kind of know how we got there. We kind of know what the process is now, because it's changed something from when we were going through it. And I just hope that he's paying attention to what I'm telling him, and it resonates in him to be the student athlete of today's time.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, good. Well, one thing the fans may not know about Adrian Murrell is that you have a big thing for cars.
That's right.
You've been racing cars for a long time. Talk to them about that a little bit.
Well, I've been drag racing since '96. I can remember when I first brought the Camaro to the training camp, and we fired it up, and everybody was like, man, what is that sound out there?
Right.
And it was my race car, and the cars evolve. We're looking at getting into bigger and better things. There's a series out there called the ADRL. We're looking to make a campaign and build a car to go into that series by 2012. And give you some footage on us racing the cars. And
absolutely.
That's what we do. That's a passion of our family. My dad introduced us to a young age of muscle cars, and I've been racing ever since.
Well, I know your brother raced as well. I know before Reggie died, you guys were looking to be the African-American owners of a race car team. Do you still have aspirations of becoming an owner at some point in your time?
Well, not from the NASCAR standpoint, because one, I think is that market is very difficult to get into from that standpoint. Reggie was truly the driver of what we were doing there, and I was just an invite to be a part of it because he knew what my passion was for racing. And but ultimately, it's always been about drag racing for me. We understand that game. The cost per, to get into that is not nearly what it is to be a part of NASCAR. Right. Although I live in a community where that's 90% of where these drivers and teams are. And I love going to the track and watch them run. But for me, moving forward, going into a NASCAR or even considering that some sort of way, is kind of not the focus.
What is Adrian Murrell doing now?
Well, what I do is I have a company called Murrell Contracting. And essentially what we're a sustainable wall system company. And one of the things that we have that we're very excited about, one of our manufacturers, EBTEC, has partnered with PPG. And we've got blast and ballistic mitigation paneling systems. Okay. And that, everything, unfortunately, in the time in which we live in, we've got to protect, federal buildings. We've got to protect things from, or folks from, an unfortunate event. So that's one part of what we do. But, I've been a contractor since 2003 when I retired. And it's been a lovely process, and I just enjoy doing what been in the contracting world.
Well, Adrian, it's been a pleasure being here with you today, having the opportunity to interview you and let the fans know about what you're doing. It's been a pleasure playing with you and being a friend. One other question I want to ask you about. when we played and when you had the opportunity to come back to New York,
right,
to play against me, play against your former team,
right,
the New York Jets, how was that week for you?
It was a roller coaster week for me. You know, I knew that our team in 1999 was not the team we had in 1998. I did see, and I did know the players that you know, for the Jets, and you guys were a better team than we were. So I took it upon myself. What could I do? I may have pressed a little bit, and you know, obviously you guys won the game, and it wasn't something that I enjoyed going back and taking that type of punishment. And but it is what it is, and you know, I don't know what else to say. It was just what it is. What it is.
Oh, good. Well, this is Victor Green. We've been here today with Adrian Murrell. You're watching Class Act Sports.